Welcome to the Prosperity Podcast.
Prosperity Thinkers, we're going to be talking about the newest book that's coming out. You are the first people to get to hear this, and we're going to open the hood and share how it's created, how it's going to get distributed to the world, and the impact it will make. Kim, what's the title? What's the book about? Tell us.
Well, the title is Busting the Scarcity Mindset, and I have a vote to put to our podcast listeners. So, will you please help me decide? Should it be mindset singular, busting the scarcity mindset, or should it be plural, busting the scarcity mindsets? So, send an email to hello@prosperitythinkers.com, whether you want it singular or plural. That's literally all you have to do is hello@prosperitythinkers.com. In the subject line, put singular or plural. And it will be very interesting to see because, little behind the scenes stuff here. We started out with the title. I have a co-author named Kristen Huggins, whose company is called Joyful Communications. Don't you love that?
That's cool.
She said, okay, great. I'm so happy to help you with this book. I absolutely agree. This needs to be out there. We started in on it and we had the title as Mindset Singular. And then I went to buy the URL, which, note to self, many times you should look at your URL options before you decide anything. And both are available. So of course I bought both. And then it got us thinking, well, which is it? So she and I are debating that right now. And I am going to give the vote to the podcast listeners only. I'm not going to put this on email or anywhere else for whether it should be singular or plural. And I also, just for fun, have the URL Busting Scarcity Lies, because we all know that Kim loves to write about busting lies.
Ooh, I like it. How did you land on this as a topic?
Well, as we're all probably aware, there are 10 books on Amazon, one of which you and I have co-authored on the Prosperity Pets space, which is called Adventures at Prosperity Patch. And I just have always kind of wanted a book a year-ish. Like, I've actually been writing them for about 20 years, so that means it's a book every other year. Close enough. And I wrote my second book because I didn't want to be a one-trick pony, and then I didn't want to be a two-trick pony, and I just kind of kept going. Now, I'm not going to promise a 12th book, although you and I, Spencer, have some behind-the-scenes thing going on with our Prosperity Pets. Nevertheless, as it relates to the bigger books that are more substantial and typically for adults, I'm not going to promise a 12th, but this one just bubbled up. Now, I do have a couple other in mind, so maybe there will be a 12th and the 13th, but this scarcity mindset thing is just critical. And people ask me all the time, how do you get good results? Entrepreneurially, health-wise, financially, you name it. And it all starts in our thinking. It's why when we rebranded 3 or 4 years ago, we named our company Prosperity Thinkers. And so whether you want to call it your thinking or your mindset or, how you operate or whatever, it's just crystal clear to me that you have got to get the capability of busting a scarcity mindset, because it's not a one and done environment. I have to work on this every single day. And frankly, if you're a human being and you're not working on this every single day, you are either asleep at the wheel or you're having that odd day, which we all do have on occasion, that everything is just utterly fabulous. But life doesn't work that way, nor would we want it to. This is why people die when they retire, because they have no purpose and they have nothing pushing back on them that's causing them to have to step up to the plate. And so because scarcity mindsets push back on us and cause us to have to exercise our mental muscles, why wouldn't I write a book about that?
Yeah. So when you landed on the topic, and I think it's intuitive to know that that's the core. That's the thing that connects all the other pieces together. When you were writing this, did you go through journals? Did you just have a notepad and scratch out like, oh, I remember this experience, or here's one of the things that I do? Or is it something that people intuitively, they say, oh, Kim, you always, get some go on these walks, and this is how you figure things. What does that look like?
So for me, and I'll let you in on an inner secret here, I don't journal. I won't. I'm not going to say I can't, because if a gun was held to my head, I'm sure I could. But I have tried numerous times, literally, probably once every year for the first 20 to 25 years of my professional life. I tried to journal in various ways. And I still try every now and then, but it's just not my thing. The way that I work best in writing a book is to sit down and think about the table of contents. So TOC, table of contents, is the term in the biz, and it's the framework that the book exists off. And so, interestingly enough, I can't tell it to you. I don't have it memorized, but I know that there were 6 or 7 things, and 7 is always a wonderful number, right? That I really wanted to make sure was put forth under this title. And then, because I do best speaking, I work with someone to interview me for stories. So as you look back at the various books that I have out there, there's always been a co-author, or I don't call them ghostwriters because their name's on the cover of the book, but there has always been help. So it's been numerous people, will interview me and pull stories to support the overall message that I want to create. And then I really love it when it's truly a co-author. And this book is done that way. A lot of my financial books, the bulk of the material was mine. I was literally typing the information, and then I would still get interviewed for the stories. But the hardcore financial guts were me with an Excel document, or really better, a Word or a Google Doc, typing, and then grabbing copies of the Truth Concepts calculators to prove them. Like if you look at the last 2, busting the budgeting lies, busting the college planning lies, I literally physically wrote 80% of those books. Mm-hmm. And then I had help with the stories in the front end, some of the psychological aspects, etc. But this one is truly a co-author environment where Kristen's involved with about half of it. And she has interviewed me for, I would say she wrote 40%. She's interviewed me for 40%. I wrote 10% because there were a couple things that I sit down and actually typed out, especially around the framework and the overall message that we were putting forth. And then she's responsible for the rest of it. So did that answer your question?
It does, yeah. So you mentioned you spent 10% of it writing the framework, 40% of it getting interviewed, 40% of it Kristen. Talk to us about the 10% of the framework. Was that something that flowed from your brain to your fingers, and were there aha moments, or was it more of a connecting the principles that were already in? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't think any aha moments, because I have been working on this for so long. And this is such an important aspect of the message, which is there may not be any big ahas. We typically think of aha moments as, whoa, like, holy cow, this is incredible. Aha, I got it. And frankly, I hope that for some of our readers and listeners, because there will definitely be an Audibles version, that there is a few aha moments. But I will tell you for myself that I've been working on this for so long that it was fairly clear to me what needed to be in operation in that framework. And so I am one of those people that I put my first 80% down on the piece of paper, usually fairly quickly. And I am more than happy to have somebody else come in and add their 80%. And if you do the math, that gets us to 96%. And I'm one of those people that thinks 96% is dang good enough. I'm not a brain surgeon. I don't do truth concepts calculators that way, of course, because when you're dealing with math, 96% is not good enough. But in writing a book or sharing information verbally, 96% is good enough. And so thankfully, people like Kristen can come behind me and take my information that is pretty much stream of consciousness. Maybe it's got a few numbers on it or a few bullet points, or, if they're really lucky, I put in punctuation, which I probably didn't. And they'll be able to then just tweak it enough to just clean up anything that would be confusing, or where I might have doubled back, or where it was clear that something was not as fully thought out as it has earned the right to be. And so that's what I'm always so grateful for. But no, the typical Kim approach is jump in first, ask how deep later. And that's from my Colby, which is 4492, which I live with every day and I know, and can be both positive and negative. And thankfully in a book environment, it works great because I'm just flat out going to start it. And then we'll figure out the rest as we go.
Oh, I love it. That's great. So the other initial part of this conversation was talking about what it will look like as the book goes to the world. So give us just a snapshot. We don't need to give away all of the details because I know you've got a lot of cool stuff coming up. But just give us a snapshot of what a few things look like.
Well, in this instance, unlike with all of the other books, I have hired a full-on launch process through Amber Villauer. So Amber is a very well-known book launch expert, and she has a course called No Guts, No Glory Book Launch. And so we, Kristen and I, and other people on my team, so thank you in advance to Teresa, Emma, Rayanne, Debbie, Cole, like they're all going to be involved. We're going through the course and we're going to implement all of the steps that are recommended in the course. And so one of the biggest things that I'm looking for, podcast listeners, turn your little ears on and either please say yes to this or please say no, is other people that would happily promote the book. And that'll start sometime in February. The actual launch will be March 25th. So it's going to be 3/25/25. And the month prior to that, possibly even 2 months prior to that, will be all kinds of buzz and activity. And we have some fun bonuses, et cetera, that we're going to be working on. And so with our podcast guests, I'm looking for a few people that would like to be very integrally involved in that launch process, where they would be willing to share social media posts, even possibly email their own community, even if your community is 5 people or maybe it's 5,000 people, whereby you've got a group that you know could benefit from this book. Because this is the first book that is truly applicable to anybody. There isn't a human being on the earth that couldn't benefit from this. And I will also say right behind that sentence, which sounds horribly egotistical, that there isn't a human on the earth that doesn't already know this, that hasn't already read a book about this. And yet, it's just helpful information. It's the kind of thing that we need to be reading about, thinking about, listening to all the time. And so I would love to have a few people, again, hello@prosperitythinkers.com, and just say, yes, I'm in. Again, just put it in the subject line. You don't need to put anything else. Because if you've said no, then you don't need to email me. So if you are interested in that, hello@prosperitythinkers.com, yes, I'm in. And we will figure out from there what you can do. And there will be options that you can choose from to help us promote the book so that we really do get a very wide reach. And the other thing that's kind of fun about this book is it can truly go global. Most of my books are personal finance. They're appropriate for US and maybe Canadians. This one, the world is wide.
Oh, I dig it. I love it. This is one of the best ways to start the year. And it's intention. There are a couple of lessons in here that I'm spotting that I'll use in the wrap up, which is this. You are clear on what you're trying to achieve. You're collaborating with other people, not only on the creation of it, but you're actively collaborating with the audience. So you're saying, hey, participate and help naming it. Hey, participate and help getting this out there. And this doesn't just become Kim's book. This becomes everyone's book. And this can become the book that your kids, your friends, grandkids, people listen to or people read that apply. So Kim, a lot of lessons in here. Very valuable. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Prosperity Podcast. To take control of your money and have it work for you, visit prosperitythinkers.com.